What happened? Where did we go wrong?
When you look at any culture and you see the way that people are going in their behavior as a society, you have to ask, what are the belief systems that are governing and guiding their behavior, their beliefs, their everyday culture?
What were the specific roles that the Bible played in terms of Christian education back in our founding era?
The Bible was the source of literacy. The purpose for the education in America was to equip the citizens, to equip the children. Our advanced universities, Princeton, Harvard,
Yale,
the others,
all
Yale,
of them, right, yeah.
all of them, they were established as schools of theology. And now they're the exact opposite. They're schools that are just worshiping the ideology of wokeism.
My God, how far we have fallen as a nation.
There's a revisionist mindset among those that are very adamantly against our spiritual foundation. There are many people that come here, they don't want the American dream. They want their culture. They don't want the God of the Bible. They want their own beliefs. They want to fundamentally change America, as one very liberal politician said years ago in their campaign. Nobody could remember when the Pledge of Allegiance stopped being said in school. It just kind of drifted away. So the question that I have is, how many things have we lost that we aren't paying attention to?
Welcome to the Make Jesus Great Again podcast. God bless you guys. Thank you for joining us. We're doing exactly that right here. We are making Jesus great again. He's always been great, but we're bringing Jesus back to the forefront of our mind. Our hope and our prayer is that our nation can be about Jesus once again. Not about a man, not about a denomination, not about an organization, but we want to lift up Jesus. And I hope you join us with this quest to just lift up Jesus. You know, the Bible says if you lift up Jesus, all men would be drawn to him. So that's what we're doing here at Make Jesus Great Again. And we're having conversations about the founding of our nation right now in light of everything happening here in America with the celebration of our 250-year anniversary. And with me once again, I have my dear friend, Pastor Ray Lacelle from Houston, Texas today, joining us again. And yeah, I mean, I know we're both big on patriotism, both big on our country. We both love our country. Our country has been good to us, and it hasn't been perfect, but our country has been good to us. And I know we both share a passion. In the last episode, we talked about, you know, the spiritual heritage of our founders, right? And man, I learned so much in that session.
I love that time together.
I hope people go back and listen to that again, because there were things in that I did not know. I did not know about the revivals. I did not know about the act to keep Satan away from, you know, reading the Bible or whatever that thing was called.
It was the Old Deluder Satan Act.
I had no idea there was such a thing, you know.
Which was the law that was established by the early settlers that said we must have people teaching our children the Bible. That has to be, otherwise they're going to be pulled off astray.
My God, how far we have fallen as a nation. And I pray that even through podcasts like this and others, that we bring Jesus back to the forefront again, right? And help people really understand that he really is the only way. Jesus really is the only hope for the world. And America just happens to be, you know, a big believer in Jesus, and we want to make people even more in their belief in Jesus. And so, so talk to me today about education. All right, I know you're an educator. And I mean, you have amazing things going on in your school that you guys started in Houston.
We're so
the
thrilled.
Favor that you have with the governor, the favor you have with all of the things that happened with moving your school into a realm where actually tax dollars now can be used to send kids to your school.
This is called school choice in over 30 states in America.
This is crazy. And you have a firsthand in this. You've actually become almost like a voice, almost like an expert at helping people to get this stuff started. So education is like a big thing to you. And so let's talk about that as it relates to the founding of our nation. We're still celebrating the 250 years, right? They were deeply Christian in their belief, especially in their education, right? Their Christian beliefs deeply affected, right? The education and the enlightenment of the day, right?
Yes.
Speak to that. What were the specific roles that the Bible played in terms of Christian education back in our founding era?
We touched a little bit on it on that last episode, but it's great that we can spend more time on it, because when you look at any culture and you see the way that people are going in their behavior as a society, you have to ask, what are the belief systems that are governing and guiding their behavior, their beliefs, their everyday culture? And so the beginnings of America, as we talked in the last episode, was established because we had pilgrims and we had those Puritans that came and they left all of the persecution that they were experiencing in the ungodly Western European nations, and they fled to America in order to worship God.
Right.
And so as they came here, of course, commerce started coming. We ended up having the colonies.
Let me interrupt you there for a second.
Yeah.
So many people miss that point because they get stuck on what Christopher Columbus did. They get stuck on the Declaration of Independence. They get stuck on the Revolutionary War, but they forgot why the Pilgrims actually came here in the first place.
It was to avoid the persecution and the torment that they experienced.
They wanted spiritual freedom, and they weren't having spiritual freedom over there. So they went on a quest, sailed across the ocean to find it.
Have you ever seen how small those ships were?
Yes.
It's amazing. It's actually, to me, it seems like an act of God that they even made it.
Yes.
And many of them didn't.
Wow.
Many of them didn't. But to stay on the point of what you were saying, the Bible was the source of literacy. The purpose for the education in America was to equip the citizens, to equip the children and the citizens at large, workers that were, you have to remember, most people were farmers and they were laborers. Yes, there were attorneys. A lot of our founders were attorneys. You can see on the Declaration if you do the research. But most of them were laborers, and they didn't have time. Many did not go to advanced learning. But our advanced universities, those Ivy League schools we talked about already, they were established as schools of theology. Princeton, Harvard,
Yale,
the others,
all
Yale,
of them, right,
all of them. And now they're the exact opposite.
Right.
They're woke. They're schools that are just worshiping the ideology of wokeism.
Right.
But the early settlers said, our kids are going to learn to read and write. And we talked about it. How did they do that? Through the New England Primer.
Wow. The
textbook for kids to learn in schools for 150 years.
Wow.
And it was a transitional type of book. There wasn't just one. There were multiple versions of it. So somebody could do the research and find out more. I find it fascinating that we didn't have the printing. We didn't have Amazon sending something by electronic mail or to your door like our girls get nearly every day to our homes, right?
Yeah.
So they were looking at different versions of this New England Primer, but it listed the scriptures on how to learn the alphabet to the youngest kids.
Wow.
And when they were learning the alphabet, they were learning the scriptures that were applied for each letter of the alphabet.
At the same time. Wow.
And as that continued on in their lives, they learned to be literate in the Bible. They learned to understand the principles of the Bible because it was taught within their textbook.
Wow.
It was the foundation for America.
So 300 years ago, the Bible and the New England Primer were choice books being used to mold and shape young minds.
Absolutely. And that's something that people do not know today, or those that know that are of a secular mindset want to dismiss. There's a revisionist mindset among those that are very adamantly against our spiritual foundation, our spiritual heritage. This nation was not established by a large group of theists, agnostics, atheists. It was by far and large by Christian people of many different denominations. We talked in the last segment about how the states, our original states, were primarily
different denominations.
Different denominations.
That was fascinating.
I find it just amazing to see how that came to be. And it makes sense that they gathered together. But that's another thing that we have to remember is that there is no particular denomination in America that our laws are not established along the lines of any particular denomination. It doesn't, our founders' writings have been misapplied when they're talking about separation of church and state. When a letter was written from one founder to a friend.
The Danbury Baptist Church,
They were not talking about us not having a religion. They were talking about us not having a denomination. That is the designed denomination for
the
America.
nation. Exactly. Yes. I think about the statement that Christopher Columbus made. He said it was the Lord that put it in his mind, to stay the course and to do this. He was on this divine vision, mission, if you will,
Yes.
And that used to be in textbooks, and now no longer is. There's no way you'd find that in a modern textbook, a statement by Christopher Columbus saying the Lord put it in his mind to do this journey to America, and guided him. But so here's a question I have: what happened? Where did we go wrong? When did this stop? I mean, if it was the standard for so many years, when did it change? Why did it change?
Largely, it happened during the Cold War. There were leaders in the Cold War on the other side of the world that were against our freedom, our capitalism. They were espousing the communistic ways of life.
You're talking about the 40s and 50s.
Yes. Okay. And Khrushchev is one. They say that they can't pin down a particular quote to him with certainty, but it was absolutely stated from their government many times that we will overtake the capitalistic spirit of America by seducing the youth and drawing them away from the foundations that were established already, to pull them away from the capitalistic mindset, to pull them away from those foundations that had marked America as a land of promise and of the American dream. So slowly but surely, they would send over their people to come into our ranks, to run for office, sometimes disguised and not saying what they believed, other times doing so. Now today, it's not hard to turn on any news program, a national news program, and see that there's very much a different mindset from what our founders had, even in New York City, of all places, to see that people have been deluded. They've been deceived into thinking, well, if I'll get more money, I'll get more for my family if I go with the socialistic agenda. Pastor D, I don't know if you've shared very much about your family suffering and sacrificing in the early days when your parents came to America. But you knew what it was like to sacrifice as a family. It's in your family history. You sacrificed as a family greatly to come to the place now from hard work and generations of strenuous activity to be experiencing the American dream. But there are many people that come here, they don't want the American dream. They want their culture. They don't want the God of the Bible. They want their own beliefs. They don't want to follow what our founding fathers did. They want to fundamentally change America, as one very liberal politician said years ago in their campaign.
You know, I think about why my parents came to America. You know, they fled, basically. They fled the communistic approach of Italy. Italy had real influences of communism because of Hitler and then also Mussolini, right? So all of those influences just made the nation a wreck. And so my dad had the opportunity to come to America, and he calls it the land of promise. Okay. Israelites called, moving into Canaan the land of promise. But my dad called coming to America the land of promise, the land of opportunity, the land of freedom. In Italy, okay, you were limited with the kind of property ownership that you could have. I think things have changed now, but back then there was a limit. So when he came here, he was like, you could buy whatever you want, whatever house you want, whatever apartment complex you want, whatever land you want, raise the money, go buy it, work it, start a business. That wasn't the mindset that was over there, right?
And they've had about 12 different sources of government, forms of government, or more since we've had ours, these 250
We've
years.
had one. I mean, one form of government. So it makes sense then that the first thing they attacked was the Bible's influence in the schools, the Bible's influence, or in Christianity's influence in the way teachers were being raised, or the way we were preparing the next generation. Because it seems like right around there, the 50s and the 60s, is when stuff started to happen.
And then the 70s, we had the all of those movements of independence and rebellion. And now we're seeing a revitalization.
Yeah.
We're seeing a hunger and a thirst, a move of the Spirit of God in our land. We've seen these great moves of people doing these mass baptismal services around America. You and I have watched in our ministry lives over the last 30 years, great revivals that have occurred.
So go back to the education component of that. Okay, so because you're in education, you're experiencing this renewal right now.
Christian education.
You and I came out of we were in the school. We were in the public school systems throughout the 70s and the 80s. So we were kind of like in the middle of that whole 60s revolution, right?
And things were fine. I remember as a senior in high school, I was on student government, and basically I went to the principal. I was a member of the student council, and my best friend, one of my best friends, was the president. I said, come on, let's go talk to the principal. Let's get the Pledge of Allegiance brought back into our school.
Okay.
And he said, where did you guys get that idea? I said, I'm just trying to be creative. I didn't really care about being patriotic so much. I just thought it'd be a good thing to do.
Yeah.
But he said, I learned my first thing about government. He said, okay, Ray, go sell it to the student body. He said, because if you can sell it to them, they're going to vote on it.
Oh, my goodness.
So I got together with the student council body. I said, look, guys, we're going to go around to all the classes. We're going to take a vote. And one of my friends said, well, what if we don't want to do that? I said, then you need to fake it, because that's what we're going to do. She became a liberal Silicon Valley princess leader.
Oh, my goodness.
I still talk to her a little bit, but it's funny. But we took the vote. We reenacted it.
Wow.
We brought it back. Here's the question. I'm not sure if they're still doing that.
Right.
But one thing I learned, this is really a lesson that it shook me. What I realized is nobody could remember when the Pledge of Allegiance stopped being said in school. When we had the conversation, we don't know.
Yeah.
It just kind of drifted away.
Yeah.
So the question that I have is, how many things have we lost that we aren't paying attention to?
Yeah.
Adam allowed Eve to be deceived because he wasn't attentive to the responsibility that he had over the garden, is my belief.
Yeah.
Jesus was attentive and trying to get Peter and John to wake up in the Garden of Gethsemane.
Right.
Our job as leaders, as fathers, as husbands, as people in the community is to bring awareness and bring attentiveness and bring action to do those things that are right. Wow. And so as a school, we're a private Christian school.
Wait, before you go there. So you witnessed, and I witnessed the erosion, right, of God being removed out of the schools. It really wasn't an effect when we were in high school, but it really started
it kind of drifted away.
Exactly. But we got into the 90s and the 2000s, it was like he was gone, right?
When my wife was a school teacher in the public schools, right around the time, right before we got married in 2003.
Yeah.
Her mother was very ill. A couple of years later, I think around 2004, 2005, she became sick. And so my wife decided she wasn't going to give her attention fully to her vocation. We started shifting our goals towards ministry.
Okay.
But when her mother was passing away, she said, honey, please, this is one of the last conversations, please tell me you're not going to send your girls to public school. Because my wife was already experiencing over 20 years ago, 23 years ago, to the date of this taping, that there were crazy things going on in the classrooms.
Secularization of things, just making everyday stupidity, like, oh, this is okay. It's okay to have sex in a classroom. It's
and
okay
pushing
to
agenda
for
gay and lesbian rights,
right.
Trying to get a voice to make it seem like that was the predominant voice, trying to get people to make light of anything that was right and true and righteous. Wow. So we decided that we were going to start a school eventually. And when we did, we said, we're not going to be a lukewarm school. We're going to be a school that is very vibrant.
It's a Christian school.
It's a Christian school.
So you went from experiencing the removal of God out of the public square, just like your daughter, your wife experienced, to now you're starting this school and experiencing amazing favor and renewal. Tell us a little bit about it.
And the foundation, I believe, for all of us is if we have the scripture as the foundation for our decisions and what we're doing, that's what makes it Christian, because our Christianity is to be driven by biblical concepts and truths. And so for 1 year, we sent our kids to a great charter school that was right near our home. It was all the teachers that we knew were Christian. The principal prayed in Jesus' name over the events, but they were missing the Bible in their instruction. So all day long, they were receiving the same indoctrination of whatever it is that the published textbooks that they got that they had in the public schools. And I said, you know what? If we're going to start a school, we're going to do everything through Christian literature, Christian curriculum. Now we're writing some of our own. But we came to that place that we decided we're going to do this differently. And this is the conversation I've had, because you mentioned how I've become a voice. God told me this. I'm not calling myself this, but the Lord said something to me. He said, son, you are a subject matter expert in this area of school choice. And I've learned to say, okay. I really, when he said that to me, I hadn't even started studying it yet.
Wow.
But then I started getting invitations from pastors to come and speak to groups of other pastors. And I took it upon myself for a couple of months to go to as many churches as I could, call as many of my pastors. I called dozens and dozens of pastors. And I said, look, here's some literature that I've written. You don't need to talk to me. You don't even have to mention my school. I want you to be educated, because the state of Texas is now, we're the 32nd state, I believe, to offer to the citizens a dollar amount of almost $10,500. It was a lottery. The lottery is from the state sales tax surplus. So if you buy gasoline at the pump, if you purchase anything in Texas, those dollars, it's not coming out of the public school coffer. It's coming out of the state surplus that the governor has the right.
So you're able to use state money, to build your school.
The state money is funded to each student who wins the lottery. 100,000 students.
But you're using that money now, students get that money
as they pay it to the school of their choice. It comes into the school for me to hire teachers, to do infrastructure.
And you use all of that, though. I mean, you're building your school, though, in that format, but you're able to push Christian values. You do chapel services.
That's the whole point. They have no say over what is said. A school has to be accredited. There's a great vetting process for a school to be properly accredited from an institution that is accepted by the state. There are state regulatory guidelines that have to be followed. So if you are credentialed, if you're accredited by any one of these select organizations, then you already have qualified, because you're doing things according to the standards that are necessary in any learning institution.
But you're able to do Christian teaching in the school.
Yes, absolutely. We would never even consider taking the funds otherwise. So it's a matter of the parent saying, I want my children to either come to a Christian school or to a Jewish school or to a secular private school. It's their choice.
It's their choice
for their kids to be taught what they want.
But this is the school that you chose to build, right? And
this is our 12th year.
Your 12 years.
And now we're helping other pastors. So I've gone out and I've said, here's the thing. When speaking to a group of pastors, I say, it's great, the hour that we have on Sundays. Wow, what an awesome experience. We talk about it in staff meetings, what God did in that hour on Sunday. Maybe a midweek service. But I said, pastors, what if you had school Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday like us? We have a chapel every day, but all of our instruction like the New England Primer has the scriptures interwoven. And yet, everything that we purchase, everything that we design is following the regulatory guidelines that are necessary for the state of Texas to say these are components that provide the instruction so a child would be capable of passing their testing, the statewide test, which we just did, and our kids did great.
So you can have your school's teaching math, science, English, history, all the things we need, and Jesus.
Yes. I tell every instructor.
This is why I wanted you on this podcast. This is making Jesus great again.
It's incredible, because a couple of times I've had to tell an instructor, hey, look, you know what? You're a tremendous jazz and improvisational dancer. But I said, honey, to my wife, come here, we need to talk to the dance instructor and tell her we know she's a Christian.
Yeah.
She told us she was. We believe she is. But the small amount of time she's here, we have a small window of time, and she's going to use Christian music. Our goal is to get the kids into a place where they're able to use their skill sets to do a jazz improvisational dance that is hip hop and really amazing. And it's just, if somebody watched it and didn't hear the music, they'd say, wow, those kids have got it. They're so good. Same thing with our fine arts. I've hired back one of the gentlemen that he was our youth pastor for a church that we launched and pastored for 10 years. And he came back to us.
Okay.
When people come back to you, that's a good sign.
Yeah, it is.
He came back and also some other staff members this year as I've been able to hire more. But he's a fine arts instructor.
Okay.
And so we said, Alfred, we want you to do what you've done nationally. You've earned all these prizes nationally.
Right.
We want you to bring this into our school. So the kids are learning theatrical things. They're learning the arts. They're learning dance. They're learning music. We don't have a brass band, but I have the kids learn the guitar, the keyboards, the bass, the drums.
Yeah.
And we get phone calls.
Wow.
We get phone calls from local pastors.
Yeah.
One of them said, Pastor Ray, thank you. He called me once. He said, can you send your teenagers? My adults are out for praise and worship this weekend.
Wow.
He said, can you bring them? I said, sure. I went, and then he said, can you bring them once a month?
Yeah.
And then he secretly said, they're our favorite ones to lead worship and praise.
Oh my
so
God.
They're that good.
Wow.
They're that anointed.
So you sold me. You sold me what you're doing. And this is awesome. But the thing that I'm excited about more than anything is kids are learning about math, science, English, history, and Jesus.
Yes.
What a formula for success. So here's what I want you to tell us. This is the last question I have for you. So a parent is out there and they don't like what they see happening in education today. Education is in a flux today. It really is. And I know Arkansas has done some really cool things down there with pushing some initiatives forward.
Sarah Sanders.
Exactly. Reading has gone up. Math has gone up. So a lot of stuff that they're doing is great. Maybe that's a template for the rest of the nation, right? But what would you say to a family, or what would you say to somebody who is contemplating even starting a school? What would you say to them?
I would say there's plenty of opportunities for them to learn about it. They can contact us through our ministry. There's no jurisdiction that keeps us from being able to be a helping hand. The organization that our school is accredited with, they know that we are entrepreneurs, that we are desiring to plant many schools.
Yeah.
In fact, that's something that people are coming to us about on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And so I tell them, look, I don't want you to have to depend on me. I'll help you every way that I can.
Yeah.
And some of them say, well, we want to be under your organization. And I said, well, that's a possibility, but let me do this. Let me help point you in the right direction for starters.
Yeah.
And I would say this, one of the things that's very important is to get involved on a local level with the school boards in their community. I have friends in one community where I live, there's about 5 school districts. In one of them, all 6 of the women that are on the school board, they overtook a liberal school board. So I think every one of them attends the church that I attend in Texas, in the Woodlands, Grace Woodlands. And so there are roles that people can take. It's very important to show up for these meetings because I have friends in other school boards too. One of the ladies who sends their daughter to our school, she's going to be running for, and she's going to win this time for the school board in the area near our school. But it's important to take a part locally, because I still do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still going and I'm supporting and I'm getting behind these candidates.
Mm-hmm.
We have to play a part, even if many of our friends are still teaching the public school, and we applaud them. We celebrate them. But if you're going to start a Christian school, make sure that you're doing your part that you're able to now.
Mm-hmm.
You might want to start a homeschool.
Okay.
You might want to start with homeschool.
Okay.
You might want to do, there's nothing that would stop them from doing distance learning.
Yeah.
For instance, that's going to be a feature that we're going to add on to our school.
Yeah.
Not this year, but it's part of our model that we're going to do going forward. There are things that they can do to connect with others
So good.
so that they could see the way that it's already a success.
So good.
And then they should start schools. There are people that are watching that should start a school.
Yeah.
We'll do everything we can to put people in contact with them, help them ourselves to do so.
Yeah.
It's a huge undertaking.
So it's very clear that you're passionate about what you're doing. And I am so proud of you.
Thank you, Tim.
You have become an expert at it. There were so many details that you just rolled out just now that went way, way over my head. Okay. But the thing that I'm so proud of you about is that you're a living testimony, a living example of somebody who put themselves out here to make Jesus great again in education.
Thank you.
I hope you get that. And I hope our viewers and our listeners get this, that there is a way to make Jesus great in our education system. And you're doing it.
And there are many ways that anybody can get involved and do it.
Yeah.
Can I add one more thing that I should have touched on?
Mm-hmm.
We can't overlook the importance of dual credit college classes too.
Yeah.
That's something that I always want to advocate, because homeschoolers can do it as well as private schools like ours. Our kids begin going to college in 8th grade so that they can have half of their bachelor's degree completed before they leave our protective covering at our school, because we sign them up for school that is online at the local community college. We select the textbook, we select the instructors, and we deselect a couple of them that don't fit our philosophy. So there's so many things that they can partake of. And I want to challenge parents, don't be overcome by this. Don't be overwhelmed by it. Just find those that are having similar interests and take one step at a time.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
You've been a plethora of amazing information, especially helping to shed light on where we have fallen as an education in our country and the turn that I believe is beginning to happen here. You're on the cusp of it. You're the tip of the spear right now. And so God bless you. You're making Jesus great again.
Thank you so
in
much.
Our education. I'm so grateful for you and so thankful for you. And for those of you who are with us right now, listen, the thing is that I'm trying to bring people onto this podcast that are doing something for Jesus. We brought on a mayor. We're bringing in somebody here at Christian education. There's going to be others we're going to bring on. It is a calling for all of us to make Jesus great again. And so I want to challenge you. If you want to start a school, there's a link up there. We're going to put Christian Embassy School there. Get in contact with them and find out a little bit more. We'll put the link up there about some of the books that Ray has written and also the Catch the American Spirit, the stuff that we've written. This is the time when we're making Jesus great again in our country, especially in this area of education. So God bless you. Be challenged and let's grow together. And we'll see you next time.